Hello everyone and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Chris Welsh and I'll be hosting today's webinar. I'm just going to hold on for another minute because we do have quite a large list of attendees and about half of you are here so far. So if you could just bear with me for 1 minute. If anybody is having any difficulty with the audio or the screen share, please just send us a direct message, an instant message using the navigation tools that you should see on your screen. Okay, I'll catch you in a minute. Okay, hello everyone and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Chris Welsh and I'll be hosting today's webinar. I am currently heading up TV and entertainment for MPP Global Solutions across Europe, Middle East and Africa. Just for the record, shall we say, you don't necessarily need to take notes in this session. We are going to follow up with everybody after the event with a recording of the presentation and some additional materials. So please just relax and try and enjoy the webinar as much as possible. Okay, so as I said, I currently head up TV and entertainment for MPP Global across Europe, Middle East and Africa. And I'm sure by now most of you know a little bit about MPP, but for those of you that don't, we are a leading provider of advanced CRM and e-commerce solutions to the media and entertainment industries. We specialize in monetizing digital content and digital assets, and we work with a whole host of different blue chip brands across the publishing and TV sectors, including BSkyB, News Corporation, Philips, Telegraph Media Group, DMG Media, The Times, and so on. And as you can see, the webinar today is called VOD in 2014, and we'll be discussing the challenges, concepts, and opportunities facing the sector today. Naturally, with a short window of time today, we'll be hosting a session at quite a high level, but I'd be delighted to discuss anything that interests you at greater length in due course. And of course, you can contact me after this webinar to make those arrangements. Okay, so just before we get started, just some housekeeping pointers. We'll be answering questions at the end of the presentation. From my own personal experience, it's best to answer the questions at the end, otherwise the webinar can become quite disjointed. So please don't be shy. If you wish to ask a question, please click the icon to raise your hand as demonstrated on the screen now. Alternatively, you can type your question and we'll try and answer as many of these as possible at the end of today's session. We'll also be conducting a quick poll, just a simple poll, and please just follow the instructions on your screen as and when we arrive at that section. Okay, so today's agenda is on the screen for you now, and there are several different areas we want to look at today. But we won't cover each of these necessarily as an index, but we're going to look at Generation C, the key trends we've learned from consumers in 2013, some highlights in general from the industry in 2013, some 2014 strategies, so new technologies, products and value-added services. Channels, how do we manage the multi-screen in the best way possible? What is working and why? Engagement, so again, the best practices for interacting with end users and driving further engagement and interaction with your target audience. Localization, so challenges and solutions, of course, in reaching that wider global audiences, fragmented audiences from many different territories. And we'll put some highlights on business models as well, so what models can amplify user experiences and grow new revenues, and monetization, so how do we tackle this fragmented audience with a centralized monetization strategy. We'll also have a little look at BSkyB at the end of the session, and in particular Now TV. It's obviously a solution that MPP helps Sky with, and we'd like to provide some further insight into how that works for them. Okay, so starting the webinar proper, what have we learnt and what have we saw in 2013? Okay, so we've learned lots of things from 2013, obviously. There's been a number of new technologies which will affect the VOD industry in due course, perhaps, including the emergence of 4K and Ultra HD. But more specifically, relating to VOD, we've noticed that there are more platforms becoming available for VOD offerings from established brands and startups alike. To really be a leading player in the VOD industry, it is expected that you support the web, mobile, and all of the platforms within that marketplace, tablets and smart TVs. Samsung are currently leading the way in market share of smart TV units shipped, as we all know, and naturally applications from multiple CSPs to reflect that on their platform, widely available to all Samsung smart TV users. But anyway, today I've decided to look at some key players within the VOD space, which you can see on the screen, obviously YouTube, iPlayer, Now TV and Netflix. So let's focus on YouTube first. Of course, we know YouTube changed the internet as we know it almost overnight. Anyone can become a publisher, upload their own content, and even exercise their own monetization models on the platform itself. In 2013, their ad revenue climbed 53% on 2012, which is huge, obviously, and they had 1 billion requests per month for video content. That's 6 billion hours of they have 6 billion hours of video viewed each month, and if you just think about that for a second, that's almost 1 hour for every person on Earth. Okay, and 80% of their traffic was from outside of the US, and also that 6 billion hours of video content viewed each month is a 50% increase in 2012. So some pretty impressive statistics. The last one I want to leave you with is that mobile is now making up 40% of their viewed content, which is obviously a lot greater than 2012, when it was 27%. Okay, moving on to the iPlayer, which is obviously the UK's most used VOD service. So some stats again on the screen for you with iPlayer. So 102 million unique user requests in 2013. They have 200 to 300 million views per month. 11 million unique views on New Year's Day in 2014, which is a huge statistic. That's up 35% on New Year's Day in 2013. So why? Is it because they've got wider awareness, more devices? Well, I think the next stat provides an indication. So for the first time in iPlayer's history, on Boxing Day in 2013, they had more tablet users access their video content than web users on laptops or computers. So obviously that's certainly painting a picture that consumers today are preferring to watch content on their mobile devices. Okay, moving on. Now TV. So as you know, MPP, we provide the billing, the CRM, many different elements for a Now TV product, and I can only give you some statistics that are obviously available publicly. So BSkyB TV customers as a whole hit 10.5 million last year. Now TV subscribers is also forecasted to break the 1 million mark late in 2014, and BSkyB saw 800,000 new subscribers in 2013 to their TV services. That includes Now TV, Sky Go, and of course their traditional linear operation. Okay, and lastly, but certainly not leastly, Netflix. Netflix broke the 40 million mark last year in terms of subscribers, which is obviously they're the key player. They're leading the way for all of us. There was, from a technical point of view, they had 41 billion API requests per month. 38% of Americans now use Netflix, and 2013 saw Netflix begin to produce its own content. We can remember early in the year they produced content such as Arrested Development and even House of Cards. This was a huge investment for Netflix, but they obviously believe that producing that content, making it all available online at one time, certainly was a beneficial way of acquiring new subscribers that will hopefully pay them for a long period of time. They are taking over geographically, of course, as well, 41 countries now, and lots of different large TV operators in many different territories in Holland and Belgium and so on are rushing into OTT services to try and counteract that, to try and get in first, if you will. And of course, they're hogging everyone's bandwidth. All right, moving on. Some other just general statistics in 2013. 2013 also saw that digital video recorders is now in 50% of US homes. Also, set-top box VOD is in 60% of US households, and smart TV shipments are up 27% worldwide. Mobile video now makes up, videos were up 300% in 2013 versus 2012. That's obviously a huge increase, but if I think of myself as a consumer, I know that I am personally accessing a lot more video content on my mobile device. On Facebook, for example, I think we can all see that the platform has changed significantly in the last 12 months. There's much more video content now. So it does beg the question, is video the future? Okay, so let's have a look at Generation C, the consumer, their behaviors, what we've learned. So in terms of social, 4 billion people now use mobile devices to access social media every day. 50% of tech companies have acquired a customer through Twitter. Video is the future of social. If we have a look at the key players, so Twitter obviously with Vine, Facebook with their Instagram acquisition and the release of video content on that platform, and the continued success of Vimeo and YouTube across all platforms. A bit of a tongue-in-cheek stat for you now, but Gangnam Style, for example, that horrendous viral song that hit the waves in the last 18 months, it had over 3 billion views in 2012 and 13. Videos have increased 62% on Facebook in 2013, so it does really beg the question, is video the future of social? Moving on to devices. Mobile devices used to access VOD are on the rise. As I touched on previously, that New Year's Day example saw BBC iPlayer views on mobile devices surpass the web for the first time. In general, mobile devices VOD requests are climbing rapidly, and 51% of mobile traffic is sent from mobile video. Okay, subscriptions. Okay, subscriptions are on the rise. Netflix have seen their subscriber base increase from 27 million to 41 million from 2012 to 2013, and that's a 51% increase. So that's obviously an incredible year of success for Netflix. People seem to be prepared now to pay for content that they believe is valuable and relevant to them. We mentioned that Arrested Development, House of Cards example again. I think that increase with Netflix subscribers would certainly lean towards the opinion that those shows becoming available all at once on the Netflix platform help them increase their subscriber base. And of course the value-added services we're seeing now, for example, you don't necessarily need to be a linear subscriber to Sky content to access Sky Go, and we are seeing that rolled out with other leading players across the European landscape right now. Okay, so the key concepts for 2014. So not necessarily predictions, but things that we believe that are going to become, more fashionable, more apparent, and bigger in 2014. We can have a look at some of them now. Okay, so next generation EPG, second screen, big data, all these things you can see on the screen. So in 2014, we're going to see companies move to create more comprehensive offerings for their existing customer bases. Operators will be attempting to add value to current products and enhance their overall infrastructure, customer-facing incentives, and technologies. Areas where we can expect to see developments include these next generation EPGs. So what do they look like? Are they going to be mobile applications, iPad applications? advanced browsers, innovative remote controls I've seen as well. Second screen engagement continues to grow. I think the birth of second screen has changed how we view television today. You only need to go on Twitter quickly and see how often TV shows are mentioned in tags. This could lead linear TV and VOD content. Everyone wants to add an opinion or join that debate. So Zbox, Twitter, Facebook, general EPGs are going to become much more apparent in 2014. Big data. So what can we do with this data? We'll touch on this in a little bit more depth later, so I'll hold back on that one. But other things that are becoming much more apparent to overall VOD offerings are things like rotating home screens to give you that impression that they've got lots of content, rotating banners, user recommendations, targeted marketing. These are all very important in next generation offerings and can be achieved by creating a solution that is seamlessly integrated with social, product management, and of course CRM. Self-care platforms as well will obviously become much more popular. As consumers, we all like to take control. We like to bank online. We like to manage our own accounts online, whether that's a Spotify account, a Netflix account, whatever it may be. And these self-care platforms can, after obviously a capital outlay, can start to help large organizations save costs. So reducing customer service costs would be the most obvious one. Social sign-on as well. Speed is important. Speed is important for users once they want to either sign up with you for the first time or, of course, log on. And if you can convince your users to sign into social from day one, it will help you significantly with user profiling. There's also other challenges like OTTs continuing to challenge pay TV operators, and I talked about that in depth in my last webinar actually, which you can find on YouTube. It's available. It's called Sizing Up Your Audience, if my memory serves me correctly, and that is available on YouTube. Okay, so moving on. Some challenges for 2014. So obviously there's lots of different challenges for 2014, and we'll try and have a look at some of these in detail now. Okay, so admittedly the challenges are many, but we'll just discuss one or two on the screen now. So managing the multi-screen first. So MSOs will overcome the limitations of legacy set-top boxes and outdated software by launching these next generation EPGs, which we've just discussed, especially if they infuse them with IP streams. So MSOs can enhance the user experience by providing a guide that offers more convenient content discovery for end users and simple TV apps such as news, sports, traffic, and even the weather. In addition, these EPGs can serve as an aggregation point really for social media and popular websites formatted for the TV. Infrastructure is another one, so connectivity, networks, resource, bandwidth, all these technologies, these elements are challenging the industry, the sector today. Finding the best business model is obviously vitally important, and we've seen some business models evolving recently, so Netflix would be one. They've evolved their price points, they've changed how many users can stream the content at one time. They're all trying to counteract and find the best business model for them, counteract multiple users that aren't maybe paying for Netflix. But we'll touch on business models in the opportunity section a little bit later. Single view, centralization. So you may be thinking, what's that? Well, at MPP we believe it is essential to find a single view of your customer base across any channel, format or device. So you can achieve this by creating centralized back office platforms, advanced analytics, and integrating with advanced CRM systems. So it's important not to underestimate how quickly running reports on any given demographic within your customer base is, and tracking users' behaviors, habits, preferences, orders, and so on is the single best way of understanding your audience and being able to engage, retain, and of course upsell to those individuals and those groups of individuals. And again, data. So the elements I've touched on naturally invoke thoughts about data and how we can manage it better. So large operators have multiple data silos now that they're trying to aggregate and manage from different campaigns, historical services, partners, and so on. And this data needs to be aggregated, analyzed, and centralized to create a clear and concise picture of your customers with full transparency of their histories. Lastly, we'll look at localization in a little bit more detail on this next slide. Okay, so reach and scalability are very, very important, especially if you have a global offering. I know we have quite a few OEMs on this call, so that's obviously of great interest to them across the European market in particular. So there's so many different languages, currencies, tax rates, and so on within that territory, and it's important to have a solution to fit. So it's an integral part of monetizing any international product. For example, I was talking to a prospect recently that it's an American prospect with a global offering, and their largest traffic, unique traffics, were coming from the UK and the US. The third largest was from Turkey, and he noticed that they couldn't really get that uptake into paid services in that region. And once we helped them create additional localization services like languages, payment preferences, and so on, they started to see uptake climb quite quickly. So that's certainly very important. All right, moving on, as we need to pick up the speed, I think, a little bit. Okay, so some opportunities for 2014. There is some crossover with challenges, but certainly you can take some of these challenges, grab them by the scruff of the neck, if you will, and turn them into opportunities. So one of the challenges we mentioned earlier on was big data and CRM, and this is certainly an opportunity if you do things well. So for me, the problem with big data is that it's become the catch-all term for journalists and the buzzword to describe anything involving data. So every other article makes some mention of big data, and you only need to search, Twitter or popular tech blogs and so on to find it being mentioned quite regularly. Here at MPP, we understand big data and have vast experience of managing this data for our high-profile clients. However, there's a minority of mainstream press dialogue that is quite simply misguided. So many people think that big data means big database, which is, of course, off track. Big data was, in fact, the most overused corporate buzzword of 2013 as far as we can see. But there are leaders in every sector who recognize this movement and have to grapple with the term big data and its implications. It should really be called all the data or smart data, as it is simply just that. It's all the data and the analytics and the intelligence that you have. However, no one's calling it this. So the digital and social explosion has created so much data that big companies now look at avenues to analyze this data and invest in tools and software to do this much better. The introduction of wearable technology, even like watches or Google Glass, the data collected could propel it even further in the near future. So understanding, managing, and analyzing this big data is a very big part of the future of information technology and digital services. Okay, channels, another opportunity for 2014. So we've obviously seen a lot of large operators move into many different channels. I think the biggest explosion of channels really, apart from additional platforms on mobile recently, was smart TVs. It's very much become, or connected devices, connected applications are very much becoming a big part of any connected entertainment environment in the home. So multi-screen operators will overcome the limitations of these legacy set-top boxes, as we discussed earlier. They can enhance user experiences by providing a guide that offers more convenient content discovery, recommendations, and so on. The pull factor, so gone are the days really of multiple users viewing a shared device in the living room, with linear broadcasters deciding what the nation watches on what day and what time, pushing the content they've chosen themselves. So with catch-up TV and the explosion of video on demand, users are now pulling the content they want to watch at any time on any device, and operators must adapt. So TV can no longer consider itself a push industry. Things have changed, and they won't, and they'll continue to change, and the consumer is now pulling all the content they want as and when it suits them, and this will not change. So that means whatever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want. Very important things for 2014. TV Everywhere obviously is available now from pay TV providers and broadcasters quite readily, and that will continue to grow in 2014. And providing the TV Everywhere service offers the potential for new revenues via a connected digital platform capable of delivering targeted advertising, rich and branded entertainment, and even fresh subscriptions. Again, the profile factor, it's very important to maintain the scent of your brand across all these new platforms, as first impressions really do matter. And it's said that you have maybe less than 8 seconds to make an impression with an online browser before they go and find an alternative. Okay, so engagement's next up. In 2014, when somebody mentions engagement, you could be forgiven for instantly thinking of social. Of course, social is a very big part of any company's engagement strategy. However, there are many alternatives to this. So social integration, so sharing, likes, retweets, reposts, follows, comments, blogs are all very, very important. But what we've also noticed become important in 2013 were things like competitions, offers and campaigns, whether that be a win-back offer, an anti-churn offer, or selling additional packages to existing customers, user preferences and recommendations, what your friends are watching, feedback forms, comment boxes, ratings, social sign-on, and much more. And if you can find a perfect blend from this list above, then you will start to create a fuller picture of your customers, providing more transparency, prospects, and desired audiences. A fuller picture that you can report on and of course capitalize on. And these things matter should you not wish to be underestimated. Again, the push factor, that's another way of engaging with customers. So if you've got applications on tablet or mobile, obviously you can send push notifications. So if I know that a customer likes to watch action movies and I've just secured the rights for the latest James Bond movie, I could send a push notification out to them, informing them directly to their device. Again, okay, business models, another opportunity. So at its simplest, consumers are able to view online content in two ways, really. So by downloading an application on a mobile device or via watching it online. So one major hang-up for the industry has been the issue of revenue and how best to market and price programming that comes through a secondary device. So discussions are ongoing, of course, with networks and their affiliates about how to do this and with a VOD relationship that can be mutually beneficial for, TV operators and VOD players. So there's no right and wrong answers, of course, unless you don't understand your consumer. The model you provide must be attractive to your target audience, what's right for your own business, and of course, without understanding how your end users, want to pay for content, then it will be an uphill struggle from day one. There are many different models that could work for you, including some of them that you'll see on the screen just now in terms of monetization. Obviously an area of expertise here at MPP. Okay, so we can see some ideas on the screen here. So, single billing accounts, micropayments for low value price points, offers and incentives to engage, retain and upsell or even win back users. Let the user decide. So, for example, Sky has 3 or 4 different packages for their TV offerings. And it's important maybe to productize it in that way, providing bundles. Again, free trials has become very popular in 2013. Obviously, Now TV had an incredibly successful free trial period in the summer. They did that with an opt-out recurring billing. So on day one, you can sign up for free, but you must do that with your payment details. And then they let you use the self-care platform to opt out before your first payment in 31 days or whatever. So that's certainly becoming much more popular. And early adapters such as YouTube, Netflix and Now TV are reaping the benefits with extremely high viewing figures collected through captured audiences and capitalizing with tried and tested monetization models like ad VOD and so on, SVOD, TVOD. And these brands are essentially providing VOD for OTT services. However, the company behind them are practicing different business models as we've just discussed. Okay, moving on to the poll question. Let me just get it up for you. Okay, so I'm going to launch a poll question which you should be able to see on your screen now, I believe. If you could quickly just answer that question for us, we'd find that very useful. There's a lot of market-leading decision makers and firms and brands on the call today, and your opinion is very important to us at MPP. So, sorry, I just got a technical issue there. We'll just close this poll now if everybody has voted. Okay, I think most of you have voted. I'll just hang on for another couple of seconds. Also at this point, if you'd like to ask any questions, please use the instant message option on the screen, and we will obviously answer those, as many of those as possible at the end of the session. Okay, I think we've got 90% of votes in now, so okay, I'm going to close the voting on the poll, and as we've mentioned at the start of the webinar, we will provide you with some additional information and some wider market research and provide you that on email. Okay, so should be back in business now. Okay, so I'm just going to move back on now. Okay, so we are very, very tight. We're actually running a little over on time right now. So I'm going to go on to a market case study with BSkyB. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll actually be able to show you the demonstrations as we're already over on time. But listen, we have a wealth of different examples and demonstrations of the Now TV product, which we obviously manage for Sky, that I'd be delighted to talk to you about at a later stage. So please just get in touch after this, and we can organise one-on-one meeting or a conversation about it at a later stage. Okay, but let me just provide a quick overview actually. So Now TV, obviously, I think you can all agree that's been a huge success story for the industry in the last 18 months, and it is still evolving and will continue to do so for many years to come. Naturally, the brand is strong, which always helps for them getting started and when trying to secure new customers. But I think historically, if you look back at Sky, they've traditionally done three things very well, which has helped them achieve that success. And one is create great services, and I think we can all say that they do that across multiple devices and so on. They secure great content, so Premier League football, Hollywood movies, and they also do great offers. So offers is obviously becoming a much more important and integral part to any marketing and sales department within any of these VOD platforms. The Now TV product itself has a perfect blend, in my opinion, of TVOD and SVOD content. They have a self-care platform, which obviously reduces their customer support costs, and they have full visibility of all of their end users using a centralized back office platform that has order histories, billing information, account functionality, and so on. They've done things very well. I would like to talk to you about this at a later stage, but I'm getting pointed at that we're running out of time, so unfortunately I'm going to have to move on. Okay, so some key takeaways from today's session. Okay, so we've discussed today's session, we've discussed some of the challenges, some of the opportunities and concepts for the year ahead. And I think some of the things you could take away from today's webinar would include that, the customer matters most, and we must do everything we can do to understand them better. Products should be user-centric, understand who your customer is, what they want and how they like to get it. Data matters. It's the insight and intelligence operators need to maximize return of investment. We need to capture, analyze, and capitalize on this data by profiling individuals and groups of customers, understanding their preferences, and recommending or marketing additional products, services, or titles of interest to them. Centralized platforms are essential now, socially integrated with advanced CRM systems and multi-screen offerings, CDNs, and so on. Very, very important. And finding that single view that I would have talked to you about in more detail with Now TV is very, very important to any digital business, whether it be campaigns to acquire new customers, retain existing ones, and anti-churn incentives, or even regain lost customers. It's actually more affordable to work on keeping existing customers than to acquire new users with expensive marketing campaigns and so on. So the customer is very, very important. And lastly, with the customer, it's important to break down barriers that may be in their way from a purchase or a subscription or accessing your content in general. So languages, currencies, information, payment preferences, and even different packages or bundlings are going to be an integral part to any strategy for 2014. Multi-screen operators, again, will need to find that universal offering should they wish to tackle a fragmented audience in multiple territories, Europe being a perfect example. So unfortunately, I'm running out of time today. I can't really answer any of the questions that have been asked to me. But if you'd like to continue the debate and dialogue, please do get in touch. My contact details will be coming on to the screen just now. Of course, feedback as well, if you can provide it. So you should see some contact details coming on the screen. Our Twitter account, so at MPP Global. If you could follow us on Twitter, our marketing team are pushing out some fantastic content lately. On our website as well, you see some interesting blog posts about the industry, white papers and so on, press releases, and we'd encourage you to contact us on all of the above. So again, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you find the session useful. Apologies for the technical glitch around the poll, but we will produce a document with those findings and send it out to you directly in due course. So again, thank you very much for today, and I'm ending the session now. Goodbye.